The winners in the AI chip boom are not only the companies that design and manufacture the chips. AEM, a test equipment maker in Singapore, has issued its first ever full-year earnings per share forecast, something almost unheard of among listed companies there. The way I read it, this is not just a boom lifting all boats. It is a signal that a razor and blades business has started spinning in the world of AI chip testing.
Welcome to Semiconductor News Decoded. I'm Ty, with 31 years inside the semiconductor industry, bringing you the real view from the factory floor. Today, I'll use AEM's bullish forecast as a doorway into what is actually happening on the AI chip test floor and where this company's real ambition lies. By the end, you'll see the winning play that the phrase AI increased test demand completely hides, and the checkpoints worth watching from here. Here's today's news in one picture. Picture the world of racing cars. We'll lean on this racing analogy all the way through the opening section. Modern race cars compete fiercely on performance. Engines keep getting more powerful, and the body's bigger and more complex. And the more powerful the engine, the more ferocious the heat it throws off when you run it. The tricky part is the final check on the finished car. Every individual component may have passed its own inspection, but once you actually run the engine flat out, heat causes trouble, or two parts that were each fine turn out not to get along. In other words, some problems only show up when you run the car at full throttle, exactly like race day. But that flat-out check is not easy. You have to keep a car that throws off enormous heat running for a long time, while managing its temperature so it doesn't destroy itself. And a popular team has a lot of cars. Testing them one at a time, you would never make the season opener. That's where the specialist test workshop comes in. Its test bench can hold many cars at once, tuning temperature and load individually for each one while running them flat out. It doesn't have to wait for one car to finish before moving another along, so the bench is almost never idle. And this workshop makes money in an unusual way. The test bench itself sells once, and that's it. But every car model needs its own dedicated fixtures and measurement adapters, and every time a team launches a new model, they buy a fresh set. The consumables earn more than the machine. From here, let me walk you through what this actually looks like in the real semiconductor industry. Our subject is AEM, a semiconductor test equipment maker based in Singapore. According to the Business Times on August 23rd, AEM said that expanding test demand for AI chips has made its outlook far easier to forecast, and it disclosed a full-year earnings per share guidance for 2026 for the first time. The range is 0.245 to 0.275 Singapore dollars. That level of disclosure is rare for a listed company there. The numbers are striking. First half revenue came in at 247.2 million Singapore dollars, up 30% year on year. Net profit jumped from about 3.1 million Singapore dollars to about 30.8 million, roughly a tenfold increase. The biggest contributor was fabless customers designing chips for AI and HPC. The standout is the Test Cell Solutions division, which supplies test equipment and everything around it as a package. Its first half revenue rose 52.5% and accounted for 73.2% of company sales. Behind that is rising test intensity. AEM says AI accelerators, memory stacks like HBM, and chiplets that combine multiple dies all require more testing per individual chip. On that momentum, AEM also raised its full-year revenue guidance to between 630 and 680 million Singapore dollars. The order backlog for its flagship AMPS test platform stood above 400 million Singapore dollars as of August 12th. It also holds a long-term partnership with the assembly and test provider ASE and positions the OSAT market as a key growth area ahead. Now to the heart of it. This story tends to get explained as AI chips got bigger and hotter, so there was more testing, so equipment sells. That isn't wrong. But when I first read it, something nagged at me. Can that alone really explain this jump in profit and the confidence to publish an EPS forecast? Start with the first principle of testing. Catch defects as early in the flow as possible. If AI packages that already passed wafer-level inspection and final test
packages carrying expensive HBM are failing in large numbers at the last stage, system level test or SLT, then something is wrong upstream. Even a field defect rate of 0.1% is 1,000 ppm. In AI systems that line up thousands or tens of thousands of chips, that is not a survivable number.
SLT does have real value, of course. It runs the chip on actual firmware and catches interaction-driven failures that component-level testing struggles to find. But it demands dedicated boards, sockets, power supplies, and cooling, and the cost is heavy. Only products that sell at high prices in high volume, where a field failure is enormously expensive, can justify paying it. I think it's a stretch to assume SLT spreads across every AI chip. So where is AEM's real strength? If all you do is move a chip and drop it into a socket, that handler is mature equipment with little room to differentiate. AEM's real ground, as the company describes it, is designing the whole test cell, running high-power chips in the hundreds of watts to kilowatt class, while controlling temperature and power finely for each individual unit, and testing many of them asynchronously, meaning one doesn't wait for another to finish. The other piece is the blade from our analogy. The device-specific slots, boards, and sockets that attach to the machine, what AEM calls C&C, make up about 80% of revenue, together with the machine itself. The CEO himself describes the equipment as the razor and the device-specific parts as the blades, and it shows. First-half gross margin improved from 25.4% to 33.1%, and net margin from 1.7% to 12.5%. From that revenue mix, here's how I read it. AEM looks to have already won a major production design win, a POR, on a large fabless customer's AI and HPC product, and to have entered the stage of recovering its upfront investment. The goal is not to let that stop at one customer, but to carry it across as a common platform to a second and a third. I'd argue that's the real source of management's confidence in publishing an EPS number. If so, the thing to watch is not global market share rankings. The SLT market doesn't even count share on a consistent basis. There are two checkpoints. First, whether the first final test handler for memory, scheduled to ship in the fourth quarter of 2026, leads into volume production in 2027. And second, whether AEM can get into hyperscaler projects from the second half of 2026 through ASE, the world's largest OSAT, which took roughly a 1% stake in AEM. To sum up, I think the natural reading of AEM's profit surge is not the general story that AI means more testing, but that one large AI and HPC program has moved into volume ramp, and the razor and blades model has started to spin. The unusual EPS disclosure is the sign of that traction. That said, whether this winning play is real will be decided not by the growth of today's big customer, but by whether AEM lands the next POR. Does it end up a custom development shop for a single client, or can it reproduce the blade business with another customer? Testing is an unglamorous step, and I want to watch it turn into a source of profit through this company. That's all for today. I'll keep bringing you semiconductor news and analysis, so if you found this useful, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. This has been Ty on Semiconductor News Decoded.